And I also see here that you have a few memorabilia. Now, what this would say to me is, when I see John Wesley, and so much of John Wesley, I have an inkling that I'm talking to someone who is connected in some way with a form of Methodism. Would I be right in saying that?
Absolutely. I'm an independent Methodist.
And you were a minister, weren't you, Gilbert?
Correct, yes.
Where were you ministering?
I was ministering in 3 locations, Ballymena, Dungannon and Banbridge. Altogether, 28 years in pastoral ministry and 5 years in evangelism prior to that. And now we've been 22 years in Africa.
So this is you now then, Gilbert and Margaret.
This is us now, yes.
And this was you when?
Probably about 40 years ago.
And I see you've got the clerical collar on you.
Okay, I guess I have. I guess I have.
So that makes it official.
There you go.
So where was that took then? You were obviously in the Methodist Church then?
That I think was taken in Dungannon.
Oh, was that Dungannon Methodist?
Dungannon
Independent Methodist.
Independent Methodist, yes.
Yes, very good.
Yes.
So this is John Wesley. Then you're obviously a big fan of John Wesley.
That's correct.
Fantastic.
John Wesley was born in 1703 and he died in 1780?
89 was it? Or
No, 1780, 83.
Something like that. I can't remember exactly.
84.
I should know. But John Wesley, of course, was a tormented man, as you well know, because he was a minister, but no assurance at all of salvation.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
And it was through the invitation of a Moravian that he ended up in the Aldersgate Street, and he went in and the meeting was being held and they were studying the epistle of Paul to the Romans, but it was actually Luther's commentary on that. And he interrupted the meeting that night and he says, forgive me, but he says, as you were talking, I felt my heart strangely warmed.
Exactly.
And John Wesley said that night that he realised that he had died for me.
Exactly.
And he was converted to Christ. Amazing.
It's interesting also, Mark, to note he had a wonderful introduction to the Moravians in America. He went to America for a short number of years and he was quite disillusioned and he returned back home. And coming back home, there was a huge storm at sea. And he noticed how peaceful and how sedate and comfortable that the Moravians were. They were singing hymns and it seemed like the ship was about to go down and all of them going down with it to a watery grave. And they were not concerned. And he asked them, why are you not concerned? Here I am, I'm trembling, I'm not fit. I feel I'm not fit to meet God. I've no peace. I do not know my sins forgiven. And the Moravians talked to him about Jesus and the way
Fantastic.
of salvation. And it was after that near shipwreck experience that he was brought to his senses and he found his way to Aldersgate Street in London. And he heard that amazing reading from the preface to the book of the Galatians.
Oh, Galatians was it? Sorry, I said Romans, I think.
Yes, I think it was Galatians.
I think you're right.
Yeah. So that was the night of all nights for John Wesley. He was wonderfully born again, and he said his famous words where I found and felt my heart strangely warmed. And he said that night, I knew that all my sins were forgiven.
Right.
Even mine, he said, even mine. And I became a child of God. And that was the beginning of a great ministry.
Very much like Luther. Luther had no peace. Everything he done to appease God, like John Wesley, all he found was an angry judge. He had no assurance of salvation. And he was reading and studying in Psalm 31, where it says that the psalmist says, Lord, deliver me in your righteousness. Luther realised that the righteousness of God not only condemns, but it can also deliver, can also save. And then through reading Romans 1 verses 16 and 17, he realised that it's through faith, and that it's Christ's righteousness, and not our own righteousness, that actually makes us righteous with Christ through Christ's sacrifice on the cross. And when Luther realised this, he says he felt that the gates of heaven had been opened wide. And he says, I felt I had been born again.
Beautiful.
So fantastic. And of course, the Wesleys done a tremendous work.
Absolutely.
You know, throughout England, not only England, but actually in Ireland as well. And I have a playlist. I've covered a lot of the places where the Wesley has been. Some places he's been 7 times. Armagh, he was 7 times in Armagh, so he was. In fact, he even complained about the luxurious buildings that the bishop was building for himself. He wasn't a happy chappy with these things. But tremendous man. So we have someone from